Alrighty, guys, so we have some interesting updates now to Avengers Doomsday that we got to talk about here. And I'm going to actually split it up into two parts because I think there was one main focus of this article that came out, I think from Deadline, or it could be Hollywood Reporter, anyways. But there's confirmed by the major trades. But there's one big piece of news that they wanted to talk about, which I think, is interesting and I think has some implications. We'll talk about it here in this segment, which is Hayley Atwell coming back for Avengers Doomsday. But there was also another little hidden nugget in there that we'll talk about in the next segment, which I think is also interesting. I'm not going to say exciting necessarily just because I don't know what to make of it, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So let's get on to the news first that Hayley Atwell is reportedly coming back to the MCU in Avengers Doomsday. Now, this, in terms of being surprising or being any kind of secret or whatnot, I don't think that this is surprising at all, to be quite honest with you. I think that just the fact that she came back in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, she voices Peggy Carter all the time in What If, in 3 seasons of What If, right? I think she's very game to return to the MCU in some capacity. And I think that that's a great thing because I personally am a big fan of the Peggy character. I think that, I again have to admit I still haven't seen not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Agent Carter. I also have not seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I haven't seen Agent Carter yet, and I know it's really great, so have to get around to doing that. But I think in the MCU proper, at least, I've really enjoyed her character. And I think that it was such a great ending for her and Steve to have, not just for Steve, but for both of them, because they're both, lost a lot, and they both fought hard for just their ideals and their, what they believed in. I think that that's really a great thing for the character. She's a very strong and very smart character as well. And so I think that, it's just great to have a character like Peggy come back to the MCU. Now, the big question is that was not confirmed, just like we talked about with the Chris Evans news coming back for Avengers Doomsday. And I think it's interesting that these two things are being paired together because in the article it indicates that this was sort of not in addition, but paired with the fact that Chris Evans was coming back. So these two things are not unrelated. Now, how they're related, whether or not these two characters are going to be together in the movie or if they're just, it's just the actors were talking to one another and they came back at the same time. I don't know. But the article seems to indicate that there is some relation between Chris Evans coming back and Hayley Atwell coming back into Avengers Doomsday, which is interesting because the question becomes, who is she playing? Is she playing a multiversal variant of, Captain Carter, right, from What If? Because the one in Earth 838 is dead, obviously. Is she playing, she could be playing a Captain Carter, though, in another universe, right? We saw another version of Maria Rambeau, right? Monica Rambeau's mom, but she was the superhero version of herself. I forget the name. Binary? Is it Binary? Anyways, at the end of the Marvels, we saw her in that X-Men universe with Beast, right? So could Hayley Atwell be playing a version of Peggy Carter from that universe? Or, an interesting one, could they be finally retconning and explaining what happened at the end of Avengers Endgame? This is my personal, well, not theory, but just what my mind gravitated towards immediately when I heard the news that she was coming back, as well as Chris Evans was coming back, is that somehow these two don't get their quote-unquote, good ending, right, at the end of Avengers Endgame. I think that I wouldn't love this, honestly, but I don't love many of the options to get them into this movie either, because if they're just multiversal variants, then fine. It is what it is. I don't know why we're doing it other than just for kind of stunt casting, to be honest, because I think the whole Robert Downey Jr. thing, is interesting because it's not like, oh, let's just have a version of Iron Man come back. That's what I really was not super excited for. When they announced he was going to be playing Doctor Doom, I was way more excited because I was like, there's infinite potential here to tell an interesting story with the face of Iron Man being on the big villain of these two Avengers films. I think that's super interesting. If it's just a random Captain America and a random Peggy Carter plucked from another universe, I don't know if I'd be that excited for it, honestly. I think what made Johnny Storm so fun was just that they knew what they had. It was a quick sort of cameo, not cameo, but small role. And, Chris Evans was just there to kind of be funny and then, make the audience cheer, and then he was gone. It wasn't meant to be a sustained role in that film at all. And I think that it worked perfectly for that. But it seems like Chris Evans is going to have some kind of sustained role in this film. And it seems like Hayley Atwell will as well. Because, if you notice, right, these big castings that come out pretty early on, because Avengers Doomsday, rather, has not even, I don't think the script is finished yet. It could be, for all we know, but the last time we got an update, the script wasn't finished, and production is not going to begin until early next year. So the film hasn't started filming, and they're just starting to finalize the cast list and, get everything ready to go for next year. So it remains to be seen, right, how much of a role that she has. I would guess it's something related to the Sacred Timeline. I just find it hard to believe that they, especially for Avengers Doomsday, which I'm presuming they're going to have a bigger role in than she had in Multiverse of Madness and Chris Evans had in Deadpool and Wolverine. I think it's going to be a bigger role. The question is just how and what. There are rumors going around right now that Chris Evans is going to be playing Nomad. That hasn't been confirmed as of the recording of this segment, so we'll see. We will see, but I'd be very curious and want to see how they fit into the story and whether or not they're going to be featured in the marketing and how that's all going to work. So we'll see. We'll see, because it's shaping up to be sort of the, not really the wrap up to the multiverse saga. I think in concept for sure, the multiverse saga, but really more a wrap up of, again, another wrap up of just everything in MCU history. So I think that'll be interesting. It's always great to have her back, though, I think, and I'd be very curious to see what kind of role she has. Maybe she'll be more of the Captain Carter version, and maybe she'll even fight, Chris Evans' character. I don't even know. Maybe he'll just be Johnny Storm, and this is all a nothing burger. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes. So that's the news about Hayley Atwell, and like I said, we'll talk about the other news relating to Chris Evans in just a second. But guys, what do you think about Hayley Atwell returning to the MCU as Captain Carter, Peggy Carter, some other entirely different character? That would be interesting. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this news.